Hello, hello, everyone. I will give everyone a few minutes to log on. I am Dr. Chara Williford, founder, CEO, and master educational architect of Be Your Best Yet, a strategic premier educational consulting firm where I specialize in helping to empower principals so that we can have schools that are thriving. Because if we have empowered principals, more than likely we will have thriving schools. All right. So I thank everyone for joining. Feel free to put in your comments to let me know where you are, who you are, perhaps where you lead. So tonight we are going to really zero in on, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to zero in on what I like. Okay, that looks better for me, at least on my end. Hopefully it looks okay on your end. So this is our Principals PLC, but specifically I wanted to do something specifically for my new principals. This is applicable for all principals, of course, but specifically I've really been thinking about our newer slash our early career principals. And this is the time of year, and I know we're in a busy season in December in terms of thinking about, oh, it's break. Well, not necessarily for us as educational leaders. This is really a critical time in the school year. So I'm entitling this session as a compass. And so when you think about a compass, you think about directionality, you think about where are you going, where have you been, all of that. Am I on target? Am I going in the right direction? So of course, if you know me and if you follow me online, you know that I love a C word, which is a play on my name for Chara. So mostly everything that I do deals with essential C's. So let's dive in. All right. So my first, Dr. Chara's first essential C, which is the cornerstone, and that is academic excellence. All right. So what I like, so all principals, but new principals, this is what I really want you to really zero in and to really think about. If state testing of wherever you are in America and abroad, if your state assessment slash your accountability measure were today, would you be happy with where your school is? So really, new principals, what I would really like for you to do is really to consider all of these bullet points under the cornerstone of academic excellence. So I want you to think about whatever your diagnostic is, because of my assumption, and I know that I should not assume, but my assumption is that this day and age that we all have some sort of assessment, universal screener, if you will, diagnostic, whatever you call it. It could be a map, it could be an iReady, a Cadence. We all know all of the things as it relates to that. But think about achievement. So achievement is mastery of your state content standards. So if you take whatever that diagnostic is and think about, are we on target? It's the middle of the year. So do most of your students, are they halfway on target to meeting the achievement level targets for the grade level? That is your grade level standards. So you need to look at that right now as it relates before January. Then have a list of students for that. Then your growth measure. there's always a way that we can measure growth. And what is growth? Growth is students have been in our buildings, depending upon where you are, we'll say late summer up until now. So if you are down where I live in the state of Georgia, school begins in late July, August. So that means from late July, August up until now, which is December, do you have evidence that your students have grown in all of the days that they have stepped into your building? Okay. So many of our assessments, many of our diagnostic assessments, you can put a growth measure or a progress measure in there so that you can determine if students are on target. Are they there? And so again, same thing, create a list for students that may not be meeting your growth targets. Okay. Very important, bullet number 3. Those are your subgroups. That could be economically disadvantaged students. That could be your students with disabilities. That could be your English learners. Whatever your subgroups are within your school, you must monitor those students as well. And you must know, are those students on target to meet the targets that I have set forth for them now? All right. And then your reading levels. We all know that literacy is a hot topic across the United States, but moreover, literacy reading is important across all content levels. So double check those. I need to add this to my notes because I don't have this on here. One thing to add under reading levels as well to double check at this point of the year is in your media center, pull and double check your circulation levels also. So are students checking out books? Are they reading? That's number 1. And then what do their reading levels look like? Okay. That's important for academic excellence, because I love to say readers are leaders and leaders are readers. And that is true. Okay. Then we have attendance. All right. And most of our accountability systems across the United States, attendance is a hot topic. I was actually reading on an article, really a report on Twitter today that was speaking about the low levels of attendance in our schools post-pandemic. So for that, I would say double check students at this point. Again, you're at the midpoint. How many students have missed 5 days, have missed 7 days, have missed 10 days, and or more? Think about your attendance systems. Do you have an attendance support team within your school? Does that attendance support team meet weekly? Do teachers submit attendance daily? How do you know that? How do you know if student notes are being collected and put in? How do we know that calls are being sent out face to face? I mean, that someone is also actually calling students that are not at school. So again, pull your attendance numbers and really think about, okay, are we on track at this point for attendance? Pull your last year's data up to see how close or how far you are for attendance. And then last but not least, under the cornerstone of academic excellence, I have each student. And this is critical here. So for each student, you must, new principals, take a deep dive into any interventions and or enrichments that have been assigned to students, in addition to looking at the success of those stated interventions and or enrichments and determining, is it working? Is it not working? Do we have all students assigned to the appropriate intervention and or enrichment? If we do, great. If we don't, they need to be assigned come the start of second semester. And I do understand that for many of us, that you might think that, oh, this is very time consuming. And guess what? It is. But it is worth the necessary effort to do that. And what do I mean by each student? Just what I'm saying. So in all of our diagnostics, you can actually go in and pull a roster, look at your students, student by student. That means if Chara is assigned to a tier 3 intervention and I'm supposed to go with Miss Williford, that's my reading intervention teacher, and whatever students is on her caseload, then I am going to look at every single student. I'm going to look at myself. If I were the student, is the intervention working? What does my data say? Am I growing? Do I still need this intervention and or enrichment? And then are there other students that's not assigned an intervention and or enrichment that need to be assigned? So the moral of the story is you must look at each and every single student one by one, and then you must assign accordingly. All right. And I also want to discuss very quickly, we talk about doing that for each student. Guess what? We need to do that for each teacher or staff member as well at this point of the year. You have to take a close and critical inventory. So once you're pulling all of this data for student data, I was looking at a report in one of the universal screeners, and I can actually begin to identify, okay, well, at this point of the year, these are my high growth teachers. These are my high growth, low achievement teachers. These are my low growth, high achieving teachers. These are my high achievement, high growth teachers. All right. You must look at each of your teachers and your staff that way and come up with capacity building plans for them. Because remember, our jobs as school leaders, as principals, and particularly you new principals, is to provide the coaching and the capacity needed to each and every student. To each and every teacher, so that each student can attain high levels of achievement and growth. Okay, so you must do that. Take stock of every single teacher and or staff member on your team and actually say, what do they need? All right, that is our cornerstone of academic excellence. I'll give you a moment to think about those. All right, our next one is continuous school improvement. And I know no one likes to talk about the school improvement plan, or the continuous school improvement plan, as I like to call it, but it's essential. So at this point of the year, again, because most of our school improvement plans are driven based off of our student outcomes, and or some of our perception outcomes, or some of our climate outcomes. So pull that school improvement plan, look at your goals, and say, again, if it were the end of the year, if our state assessment and accountability measure were actually today, would I be happy with where we are with actually attaining what we said we were going to do when we met over the summer, and or either at the end of the school year and came up with all of these goals and action steps? And if you can say that you are on the right path and your compass point is guiding you this way, wonderful. Continue to keep up with that. And if not, then go back to the drawing board and decide where is it that you need to make some tweaks so that you can meet your goals by the end of the year. Because again, for our January Power Hour, right now, this is really about taking a very critical and close inventory in terms of where is my school right now and how am I going to prepare for it come January. All right. So I will not spend too much time on that one. I feel like that one is pretty self-explanatory. The main thing with that one is that we just have to take it out and actually ensure that our continuous school improvement plans actually are living and breathing documents within our school building. And if it's something that you need to bring back out and bring back to the forefront, then make sure that that is on your list for January to do that. All right, our next essential C is one of my favorite things, and that's collective efficacy. All right, so we know that collective efficacy has an effect size of, the last I checked, of 1.57, which means that it has a profound impact on our buildings. So when we as a staff, when we as individuals know that because of us that we make a direct impact on students and student outcomes, that is essentially in a nutshell what collective efficacy is. And the collective piece for me is meaning that we're doing that also as a team, that we know that I am a powerhouse as an individual, but I am also a powerhouse as a collective unit. All right, so how do you gauge that right now? Don't separate the people right now before the break. Let them have their break and let them go and really think through some things. But you must conduct, it is advised that you conduct team temperature checks. Which teams do you ask? As the bullet says, all the teams. So conduct a team temperature check on how is the team overall working collectively to meet the stated goals of the school. That is so critical and important. And that means that you don't necessarily have to do that work principle by yourself. You can engage your leadership team, engage your admin team, engage all of those people to do that. Okay. And then I have reset, re-engage, and recommit. That's this is a great time to think about doing that. Once you welcome the staff back in January, revisit the core values that you stated upon being hired at the school. Okay, what are your core values? What are their core values? What's the core values and collective commitments of the school? To what extent what did we do well first semester in these areas? Now that we're moving into second semester, and we know that second semester is stressful, it's busy, testing will be coming around, all sorts of things. So how can we reset, re-engage, and recommit to those? Okay. And course correct. Please do that. If you need to, ask your people. So I put just a couple of easy things to do that you can ask moving into second semester. And you can actually do this now before your staff goes home for winter break. What do we need to do more of, less of? What do we need to start, stop, continue? What's working, what's not working? Those are very simple. They do not take a lot of time, and you can actually gauge and get a great pulse of from your team's perspective of what's working. You could do that from as the individual standpoint, but you could also ask them to think about that as a grade level, as a department, as a front office staff, as a custodial staff, as a whatever. Okay, so think about it from that standpoint too, because we want to really promote teamwork, collective efficacy, the collective whole. And so hopefully that makes sense. So welcome. Quickly, I'll go back and let you digest that for a moment to anyone that has just joined us. I am Dr. Chara, and welcome to New Principles PLC, our December edition, where we are focusing, naming it compass. And of course, we know what a compass is. The compass is directionality. Where are we? Where do we need to continue? Where do we need to course correct? All of that. So we have quickly covered the cornerstone of academic excellence, and that is really looking at using your universal screener to really think about all of these particular bullets here: achievement, growth, subgroup, reading levels, attendance, looking at each student, taking inventory of each and every student, taking inventory of each and every teacher and staff member, dusting off those continuous school improvement plans and really taking inventory about where you are, where have you gone, what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, and where do you need to make refinements. Then we quickly talked about collective efficacy. Now we will move into one of my favorite essential C's, which is calendarizing. All right. So for this one, a core question to ask yourself is, to what extent does your calendar align to instructional leadership and your school priorities? And I'll say that a little louder. And how are you really spending your time? So when we think about calendarizing new principles, I want you to really know that you must have a CEO mentality. So you are the chief executive officer of your building. I'll sit there for a moment and I want you to internalize that if you have not. Okay, so you are the executive, you are the CEO of your building. So as most CEOs, you have a cabinet, which could be your core team or your admin team. You have a board of directors, which is your leadership team. All right. You have team leads or department leads. So I really want you to really think about and really internalize that you are the CEO of your building. And what do CEOs do? CEOs do not do all the things in the building. They oversee all of the things in the building, but they do not do all of the things in your building, in their buildings or in their organizations. And guess what, new principals? You should not either. So that means within your calendar that you have check-ins. I'm skipping ahead a little bit to this particular bullet here, that you have your check-ins, you have your meetings, you have your things to check in with all of your people. That's your leadership team, that's your core team, board of directors. Remember that, of your C-suite people, all of that. You have to think about that as the role of principal. So that should be in your calendar. Thinking about organizing your calendar with that mindset from the onset. All right, so your big rocks. What are your big rocks? We spoke earlier about your school improvement plan. Those are big rocks. We also gave a very lengthy list as we thought about academic excellence, the cornerstone being academic excellence, of all the things that relate to that. Attendance, discipline, behavior, visibility, culture. Those are things that should be in your calendar. But whatever your big rocks are, you have to intentionally plan and put those things on your calendar. And you must be disciplined. You must discipline yourself to hold yourself accountable to your calendar as well. All right. So then classrooms. That's where the magic happens, as I like to say. So when we think about calendarizing, are you planning when you're in classrooms? Do they reflect all of the classrooms, all of the departments? So as you get ready to move into January, take a deep inventory of actually what has prevented me from getting into classrooms this first half of the semester, and began to think like a CEO. And how can you remove some of those barriers from yourself? And what do you need to do to train other people to handle some of these things? Because again, CEOs are responsible for everything, but they don't have to do everything. Okay. All right. So does your calendar also reflect, this is climate and culture here a little bit, connecting with students and staff? And I should have put parents as well. So that's being visible, not just being visible and running from one half of the building to the next, but that means truly walking around and talking to students, getting to know them, getting to know your staff, and connecting with them as well. Back in my principal days, I used to have a placeholder on my calendar, which was called student culture, because I practiced leverage leadership. So I had that on my calendar, and my student culture time was my time where I scheduled myself to be out and about and talking with students, greeting students, all of that, as well as I had specific times where I was out in the building, and I had one of these little desks that I could move around, or sometimes I would just pack up my stuff and go sit in classrooms, sit in the hall, just wherever. All right. Collaborative planning, that's important for you to support the intentional work that goes into teaching and learning and assessing during collaborative planning. So between you and your leadership team, your core leaders, you must be in that. Last but not least, checking in often and consistently with your people. All right, remember, we're adopting a CEO mentality that must be placed as placeholders on your calendar. We talk about, I was speaking to a principal last week at an event, and we spoke in detail really about this bullet, check-ins, and as it relates to delegating, as well as letting people know exactly your expectations. And the check-in is the time to do that. And so what I mean by, if you're having a check-in new principal with an AP, that's not just saying, okay, AP, how things are going, how are you doing? No, because you're a CEO. So that means that AP has a list of things that they are responsible and accountable for. So as the CEO, they're reporting out with you. You're meeting with them one-on-one, and they're sharing these things with you. In addition to that, is also your time to provide coaching and support to them. All right. So remember, the check-in is so important with getting your goals met, and actually having that on your calendar. And people like that. They love FaceTime with you as the principal, to ask you questions that they may not ask in a large and or a smaller group. So that one-on-one time is important. So if nothing else, if you don't do that with your every single person on your leadership team, begin to schedule those one-on-one check-in loops, at least with your core admin team, at least weekly, but do not let more than 2 weeks go and you have not had a formalized check-in process with those persons, because they're important to you executing and meeting your school goals. Okay. And last but not least, as we think about calendarizing, so I put collective team efficacy here, and this is somewhat of the pecking order. So for this, that means having specific times to talk with your leadership team. Yes, most of us have leadership team meetings at least once a week, or perhaps every 2 weeks, but make sure that time is there. Your admin team, are you meeting with your front office staff as well as a collaborative team and talking with them? Because guess what? Your front office staff is the first line of defense, I guess, or offense, whichever one it is, to protect you while you're getting into classrooms and getting into different places. You can use leadership team, admin team, and front office staff often as first responders. So that people do not have to call you first. They go to a first responder so that you can be in classrooms, you can be in the hallways, you can be in collaborative planning, you can be conducting check-ins. All of those things support collective efficacy as well, but they must be intentionally scheduled. That's why I put the two of these on the same page, because the two of these go together. You cannot have one without the other, because if you don't put it on your calendar, your collective efficacy, you doing your temperature checks, you doing all of that, that's not going to happen. So I want you to think about, that's why I say I really want to talk to the newish early career principals, because oftentimes our time gets away. And I was guilty of it too as a newer principal, but thinking about ahead going into second semester, I really want you to think about how you can really take more control over your calendar and over the intentional building of your teams and your individuals. Okay. All right. Excellent. How am I with time? Oh, perfect. Okay. Hopefully I'm not speaking too fast. So thinking ahead, I'll start here. The next C is charting next school year, because new principals, newish principals, and any other more experienced principals know that once January comes, it's the seesaw of you have 1 foot in this school year and you have 1 foot in next school year, and you have to teeter tatter between the both. So in order to have a summer, and I want you to have a summer, and I want you working every single day this upcoming summer. So these are some things now that I want you to think ahead and begin to do. So I want you to begin to craft your later list. Actually, I had a principal that taught me this term a few years ago. Go ahead and start crafting your later lists now. And these are ideas that you did not get to this year. Sometimes I call this my wish list. So, but what you don't want to do is think in June of an initiative that you want to start the next school year, and you haven't thoughtfully thought it out and crafted an implementation plan and strategy and all of that. So no, you're not going to do that, because you're going to now begin to write your later list so that you can intentionally and thoughtfully think about what your initiatives, your themes, your priorities will be for the upcoming school year. So when it comes time to start pulling those things together, starting in January-ish, early February, you'll have that together, because at some point, your district is going to begin to ask you about your personnel plan. What are your needs? What are your wants? So go ahead and begin to think about that now. All right. So the next bullet is crafting intent letters and or conversations. So HR personnel is probably has never been off of the radar, but now it's back on the radar in terms of staffing for the upcoming year. So between now and January, begin thinking about an intent letter or an intent survey. And what is that? That's meaning where you ask people, are you happy with your placement now? What are your career goals? Where would you like to serve for the upcoming school year? How might we best do things around here? Those types of things, so that you can begin to have those personnel conversations with people. And yes, I know a lot of people can say, yes, I'm coming back, and they won't. And that's okay. We know that that will happen. That's fine. But you can plan for that as well. But really right now, you want to at least get inside of your staff members' brains a little bit and begin to think about what are they thinking about for the upcoming year? What are they feeling? And to be quite honest, this happens really honestly through having that conversation, especially if you know that there are you go back to your list about your high growth teachers, your high growth, high achievement teachers, but especially those high growth teachers. You want to keep those staff members. You think about those staff members that truly exude the competencies and vision and buy-in that's needed for your school. Start having those conversations with those people so that you can work your impact and influence to really think about making sure that they remain and that they stay with you. And you can also have career conversations with them and think about, okay, well, yeah, you might have been teaching third grade for whatever. So are you happy teaching this grade level? Are you happy teaching this content area? Where do you really see yourself in the next few years? How can I best help you? Those types of things. So that kind of goes into the next bullet about the HR stuff. Think about your goals as the school and who you need on the team. So it's time to begin to craft that now, because you want to internally think about the ideal teacher or the ideal staff member for your building that can help you to attain your goals, your school's goals. And you want to intentionally hire and find those people. And it's not always about skill set. A lot of it also, this day and age, just being quite honest, deals with coachability. It deals with the mindsets that people have. Do they have a growth mindsets? Are they growth mindset? Pardon me. Are they all in for students? Those types of things. Some people call them soft skills. I call them competencies and mindsets. And this is a big one. Begin to prep your calendar, your personnel plan, your ask fors. That's things that if the district asks, well, what principal, Dr. Williford, what do you need? And you can quickly go to your book and pull it out. And you have your rationale as to why. So you have your evidence to back it up, because you never go into one of those meetings and you haven't researched it, number one, and you don't have your evidence or your data points to say, this is why I need it. Begin to think about your master schedule. What has worked this year for your master schedule? What do you want in the upcoming year? That sort of thing, as well as your continuous school improvement plan. So I put here, now this is my personal professional opinion, try to have your continuous school improvement plan completed no later than June, but get started on it. I'll give you all of January, but at least start thinking about starting on the next year's plan come February, no later than March. And you want to do that before all your people go home for the summer. Or at least have it done by the time you schedule a leadership retreat. But you have to start on that now. I had a superintendent many years ago that talked about the hay is already in the barn. So come testing season, the hay is already in the barn. So go ahead and use a lot of your other metrics to begin to help you to start working on your reflecting and planning for your upcoming school improvement plan for the upcoming year. I told you I want you to have a summer. So start on a lot of the work January-ish, early part of February. Okay. All right. And last but not least, the charge. I had another conversation with the principal, a couple of principals. I was just kind of picking their brains and asking them, okay, well, what is your charge for the staff in January? And they said, well, I hadn't really thought about it. Well, guess what? I need you to. And what that means, you need a welcome back message for all of your various stakeholder groups. So how are you going to welcome back parents second semester, all of your staff members, your students as well, But really, what is that second semester focus? And you create that second semester focus by thinking about everything that we have stated here, from your academic excellence to thinking about your school improvement goals, thinking about teaming, collective efficacy, your calendarizing for you. That's where your charge comes from. So is your charge to reset, refocus, whatever your second semester focus is, and in the charge, you must use this critical time to come up with that and layer it in data. Okay, and your school improvement plan as well, so that they understand why this is the charge. Why are we resetting and refocusing? So, I call it the charge. It could almost be like a January pre-planning again. So you must intentionally set the stage for second semester. Okay. Do not forget to do that. That is critical that you do that, that you bring everyone back in, you reset, you refocus, you show your data points, you revisit your school improvement plan, you re-engage, pull everyone back together, motivate them to do the work of second semester. All right, that is important, and it's the art and the science to doing that. All right, so just to recap, I will go back. So again, yes. And someone in the chat stated that they need to work on their second semester focus charts. It's in their brain, but they need to write it out and communicate it. And you are exactly right. You must do that. And think about your strategy and how you want to communicate it, because you want it to be grounded in facts, but you also want it to be motivating and encouraging and resetting and refocusing everyone on staff. So again, let's go back over our essential C's when you're thinking about your January compass, your plan to move forward in this direction, not here. And I want you being here. Don't do that, new principles. You might feel like that, but I want you to be here. All right. So we talked about academic excellence. That's the cornerstone, academic excellence. That's what we were hired as leaders. That's our ROI. That's our return on the investment, is student achievement. You can argue whatever you want to do. That's fine, but it is what it is. And that's what we are hired to do. So just in summation, if your state assessment accountability measure were today, December, or as of January, take a very close look at your achievement levels, your growth levels, your subgroups, your reading levels, your attendance. Take very close inventory on each student, not some, each and every student. And I need to find some pictures so I can show you, have my receipts to pull up here so that I used to have in my office printouts with student names, highlights. I could spit out my students' names and where they were, their percentile rank, their reading level, their such and such. I knew that. That was important to me because that's what I was hired to do. But it was important to me that I wanted my students to have high growth and high achievement. That was a non-negotiable for me. So all of these things I actually really did for real. All right. And then for each teacher and staff, you must do the same thing. Think about every single teacher, every single staff member, no different than students. Where are they? What capacity, what coaching and capacity do they need? And I'm not just talking about low achieving teachers. I'm talking about every single teacher, because every single teacher matters, because every single student matters. And you must do that. That's another discussion for another day, about thinking coaching is only for our weaker teachers. That totally dismantles the culture of collective efficacy. All right, dust off those school improvement plans and goals. Go back, double check those against here. That's why these two are on the same page together, because they go together. Then these two go together, collective efficacy. Do your team temperature checks on all the teams. How are your teams working in synergy? I have a thing with collaboration. How are they working in synergy together? All the teams, not some of the teams, but all the teams. And let's not forget our grade level or academic teams. Don't forget your intervention teams, your connections specials teams, your front office team, your custodial team, your cafeteria team. All of these are teams. Okay. Reset, re-engage, recommit. So think about that as you are crafting your charge for the next semester as well. Your calendarizing. Think about that as you move into semester 2. And charting next school year. Go ahead and have somewhere. It could be either in your office, it could be a notebook, just anywhere, that as you're doing your brain dumps about what you want next school year to look like, start writing that down now, having a space for that, because the time is going to come, if it hasn't already, to where you're going to start really having to think about, and once January hits, it's real, that your one foot is in this school year, the other foot is in the next school year. All right. And you may feel like that. So that's why I'm telling you to get that started now. And last but not least, take all of that and come up with your charge. Set the vision, make it plain as you think about semester 2. And I'm not sure. So how do you connect with me? You are free to text me at text join and your email. I can't see the number. Hold on, y'all. I don't want to be vain and pull my glasses out, but you can text me at that particular number and join my list. And I guess you should be able to scan that QR code as well, and you can save my information. And then last but not least, you can actually take a picture of that Calendly link, because I would love to have a strategy session with you for those that's on here to discuss your upcoming plan. So once you work on your things and you want to schedule a 15-minute strategy session to discuss your plan for the upcoming second semester, feel free to go ahead and do that. So write that plan out, get it out on paper, and we can chat about it. Okay. Hold on one second. So I'll just see if I have any comments. And I do hope that this was helpful for you, because this time of the year, I just remember from personal. I remember my first year as a principal, just from personal experience, that by December, I felt like all of the air had been let out of the tire. I was very tired. And this time of year is very busy, and you have to be chipper because it's the holiday season and having to attend all of the events and speak and yeah. But I also know the importance of also taking some time out during your break, but also you really also knowing, well, what is it that I really need to be doing? What is it that I really should focus on as I prepare for for January, and quite honestly, January and beyond, so that you can know at least that that the work that I'm working on is focused and it's intentional. Just being quite honest. And one last thing that I did not share, that I should have put, as far as the charge, at least where we live, we'll have our state accountability being released very soon. So as part of your charge, and your messaging, go ahead and craft your messaging for that, is well. And how are you going to utilize that data to prepare your charge for second semester, as well as how you're going to course correct and use your compass as well. Okay. All right. So I am going to take this off, and I actually, let's see here. And I thank you all for being very patient and here with me as I am learning to do some of these things, just having my moment of being vulnerable. I have been learning to do these new things and stretching myself because I like to practice what I preach. So doing these live leadership sessions is new to me because I'm not a in front of the scenes person like this, but I am learning and coming outside of my box as well, just like you are as newer principals. So I place this here. So it is you'll text join and your email to 814-801-7547. So for example, you'll text join, then your email. So join drsharaconsults@gmail.com and text that to 814-801-7547, or go ahead and pull your QR codes out and scan this and follow me on all of the platforms. But really, I want you to really also join my email list, because I am beginning to send out just some quick Sunday nuggets as well. All right. Well, our time is right on the dot at 9 o'clock. So I thank you for your time. Send me your questions and comments. Feel free to email me. Feel free to send me a private message, and I hope to see you on a strategy session. Okay. Have a good night. Dr. Chara signing out. Have a great rest of the week.